So over the past few years now, it's becoming more evident, more apparent that as a country we are becoming more and more divided. There used to be a time where you could disagree with someone and shake their hands afterwards, and you could have a discussion, disagree, but there was no ill will, no bad blood between you. At least that's how I remember it, maybe with rose tinted glasses, but that's how I remember it growing up. The last few years, though, it feels as though there is no room for disagreement, no room for debate. Everybody is so tribal now. They have their teams, they have their side, and you are either friend or foe. You are either with us or you're against us. And that is something that concerns me, because where does it end? Where does this path lead us to? Now, the reason I wanted to do an episode on this tonight was recently I heard a news story that sent chills down my spine. When I heard this news story, which I'll pull up, it led my mind to where the ultimate end of this could lead to. So that's what we're going to go into this evening, the divided kingdom that we are now. This is Stu Know Who. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, share, and like the damn video. So, without further ado, the news article that I'm going to bring up is talking about what sent that chill down my spine. This, I do know that I have the kind of brain that takes me to the extremes sometimes. I know I'm always looking for worst case scenarios. But what if? And what I will say is I think we have a normalcy bias. Because things aren't that bad now, we don't believe that things could get that bad. My brain kind of works the opposite. Is where can this lead to? So, army chiefs issue warning to Keir Starmer over what they called the biggest threat to soldiers. And what they said to Keir Starmer in an open letter was, today, every deployed member of the British Armed Forces must consider not only the enemy in front, but the lawyer behind. Basically saying that their own government does not have the back of their soldiers. Now, the reason this sent chills down my spine is coup d'etats, uprisings in countries. We've seen it happen in different places. They cannot happen without the army, without the military being involved and basically taking over, and it tends to be a military coup, and that is something I never thought I would be talking about for the UK until I heard this story. And then I thought, have things got that bad in this country? I know it feels bad, but have they really got that bad that news stories like this are coming out? So, a group of former military chiefs have warned that the effectiveness of the British forces is being undermined by lawfare. 9 4-star generals or equivalent have penned an open letter calling on Sir Keir Starmer and the Attorney General Lord Hermer to introduce a new legal framework to better protect troops. Completely aside from this, I was always told there are two people you don't piss off, or two workers you do not piss off: those who do your food and those who collect your waste. Because you piss off the people making your food, they'll gob in it. You piss off the people collecting your waste, they'll tell you to shove it. I'd also like to throw in farmers who give us the food that we need to cook anyway. But the armed service, the military, you don't want to be pissing them off, especially if you are the government. I've seen enough military coups and civil wars and civil strife happen in other areas of the world, not expecting it to happen in this country, but enough to know that do not piss off the guys with guns. You'd think that'd be quite obvious. But for them to pen this open letter, to make it public the way that they have, to say that we're not happy, that leads me to think, to wonder, if this escalates, where is it going to lead to as a country? So they warn that service personnel's faith in the legal system is being eroded, suggesting special forces members are also already leaving as a result. The retired senior officers argued lawfare, which they defined as the use of legal processes to fight political or ideological battles, is a direct threat to national security. They continued, today every deployed member of the British Armed Forces must consider not only the enemy in front, but the lawyer behind. What I will say is it's a good job that we are living in a peaceful time. That there is not war on our doorstep in Europe. There is not the potential threat of war in Asia. There's not conflicts across the Middle East, in Africa, Venezuela. We live in a very peaceful time now. So let's hope and pray we don't need our soldiers, isn't it? Just from a defence point of view, you'd be thinking there'd be a little bit of ass kissing right now. Because for the first time in a long time, we might be in desperate need of more people to come and sign up, not be walking away. Your first job as a government is to protect the citizens of your country, and one of the most important and powerful tools you have at your disposal is the armed forces. And if you are pissing them off to this extent, I would suggest you are failing somewhere along the way. Now, what I will say is a lot of this has come to do with the troubles in Northern Ireland. And if soldiers do break the law, I don't think they should be above the law. However, if a soldier is being ordered to do something which later on they say it's a slippery slope. It is a fucking slippery slope. And the soldiers are the best amongst us. I hate war. Full stop. I am as far from a war hawk as you can imagine. I wish the world was at peace. I wish we could all sit around a campfire singing fucking Kumbaya. That is not the world we live in. It's not. These soldiers who we do not have a conscription. at the moment. At the moment. But we do not have a conscription. And the people who sign up for our military are doing it on a voluntary basis. I imagine there's a few things that they expect. Decent housing. We're failing on that. Our veterans to be taken care of and definitely not left homeless with alcohol and drug addiction problems. We are failing at that. And we definitely don't expect them to be prosecuted for following orders and doing their job. It appears we also are trying to fail at that one. At a time when the world, I don't remember it ever being this unsafe. The fact that when I wanted to hear about nuclear weapons, I would watch either a documentary or great film, 13 Days with Kevin Costner, a few other people, about the Cuban Missile Crisis. If I wanted to hear about nukes, I would have to actively seek out something to listen to nukes about. Now I have to turn the news on. The fact that not a day goes by without hearing about nuclear weapons or the threat of World War III or another potential flashpoint somewhere around the world. We are living in dangerous times. And yet we're pissing off our soldiers. So that's abroad. But domestically, I already mentioned it. The thought of military coup entered my head as soon as I heard this story. You've seen it. If you've spent any time watching news further afield than your own country, you've seen stories of military coups and civil wars. That sounds extreme, and that can't happen here, surely. Which I'm sure every single country who's ever had a civil war said themselves until it happened. We have had a civil war, but it was hundreds of years ago. War of the Roses and all that. As I already said, we are, as a people, we are so divided. There's no unity. We have our bubbles around us. Mates, family, things like that, where you all kind of share the same views. And if you have different views, you don't talk about them. And whichever way you fall on those views, you are either the good guy or the bad guy. So by that logic, the other people are bad guys. They view you exactly the same. Brexit shown us this. And I don't want to get into the whole Brexit debate because, unlike politicians, that was 9 years ago. Move the fuck on. I'm sick of hearing about this shit. I voted Remain. Boo-hoo. Get the fuck on with it. Because back then, you could see how that was tearing people apart and was being used as a tool to tear people apart. From all sides. All sides. So what really sent a shiver down my spine is the thought of a civil war happening in this country. Now, this article is on Conflict Meter, and the fact that the UK is on there I would not have expected that 10 years ago. Maybe this wasn't a thing 10 years ago, and if it was, maybe they'd have been on there, but a different score rating. So, UK civil war risk score and political unrest forecast. This is for 2025. So, it's a daily analysis of civil unrest in the UK. See real-time conflict scores, unrest predictions, and political stability insights for 2025. Now, I said all that just to delay it a little bit. I'm about to bring up the meter, if you like, and show where the UK is sitting right now. Are we sitting pretty? Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's I'm trying to create some tension and drama or something. There's civil war. I watched that film and it was great. So yeah, let's bring it to the UK. Let's have a sequel, Civil War 2, The UK Falls. Maybe I am being overly dramatic. I hope I am. I know I'm not, because I've seen the score. So this is at, out of 100, 74.2% chance, a moderate risk. Now it says there, current UK civil war risk is a high risk. Maybe it's just gone down the last couple of days. So UK is rated high risk on conflict meters civil war risk index, which reflects a sustained rise across multiple indicators, including protest frequency and coordination, political polarization, we've definitely seen that, economic stress signals, yes, online mobilization, and pressure on public order resources. The UK's democratic institutions remain resilient, but our models show an elevated probability of disruptive unrest over the coming months. The Civil War Risk Index score for this country is represented by the speedometer gauge above, which is updated daily to reflect the most current data. Below you'll find a historical trend chart. So yes, it has gone down. If we were to go back to the start of November, it was higher, it's gone down. But if you look at this, it is consistently above the 70% range. It has eased off in the last week, slightly, but above 70% risk level. That is that scares me. That scares me. So high risk does not mean civil war is necessarily imminent. It indicates a higher likelihood of widespread disruptive protests. We've seen that. Localized political violence and sector-specific flashpoints. Potential triggers include contentious political events, migration and demographic concerns, cost of living pressures, or other polarizing incidents. Risk levels are uneven by region and community. This is honestly actually starting to scare me. When I am going to try my best not to get political or give a direct an opinion to fall on one side, because this episode that I'm doing this evening is not talking about I'm on the good side, it's all them guys. I'm saying this is all bollocks. But couple of months ago, when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I did not watch the video. I had seen Charlie Kirk on a couple of things. I'm not going to lie and say I was an avid follower. I wasn't. What I saw when he was assassinated was a husband and father lose his life. And bearing in mind, this was America with the UK. It was a worldwide news. A mate of mine was in the pub. A few mates of mine were in the pub. They were doing a quiz. And they were saying some of the stuff they heard from people celebrating this young man's assassination on the table next to him was disgusting. Celebrating the death of someone because, you have a different opinion to them, so therefore they deserve to die. And I think it's the Charlie Kirk assassination was not the cause of the divide between people. Obviously, like I said, we're in a different country. But it is a symptom. It is a symptom of how you're either with us or against us. There used to be a time when you could disagree, even with your wife, your dad, whatever it might be, you could disagree. You could have, sometimes there would be a heated conversation. And then you'd shake hands, go have a beer. No hard feelings. Do you want to watch a film tonight, or what football match is on tonight? And it's done with. We disagree, but, is what it is. You're entitled to your own opinion. Now you dare step out of line or have a difference of opinion with someone else. You are the threat to democracy. That's something I used to hear when they were talking about the state of politics in the US. Threat to democracy seems to be something I hear all the time when they're talking about the UK now, and I'm like, guys, come on. That this tribalism is only going to end in one place, where we all hate each other. It's not making the country any better. It's almost like the Titanic is sinking and people are trying their best to nick what they can from the boat before it goes down. There's no collectivism. When I say collectivism, I'm not talking about communism or anything like that. What I'm saying is there's no unity holding this country together anymore. There's no thought of right is right, wrong is wrong, and I can disagree with you, but we don't need to fall out. You live your life, I live my life, and let's hope that we all pull each other up in the right direction rather than trying to shoot each other down, metaphorically. Now, on that note, I have an article that I wanted to bring up, which really highlights the point of what I was saying about just how divided we are. Now, these numbers are terrifying. This is the percentage of people polled who believe we are divided. Now, if that's above 50%, that's scary. 60, 70, start stocking up on food. That's kind of how I view it, because that would show just how split we are. Now, the scary bit, I went to pull it up and it went missing. My My computer divided with the web page then. 85%. 85. 85% of Britons continue to believe that Britain is divided, as over half think differences in people's political views are so divisive that it is dangerous for society. Now, what I would say is, if you are over that half of people who think that someone is dangerous because they have a different political view to you, how would you feel if they viewed you as a danger because you had a different opinion to them? And then you can see why we're so divided, why the country is so split, and why we are going down a very dodgy path. We need an off ramp. We need to be able to get off this road that we're on, because this current road, it either leads to some sort of societal collapse where no one gives a damn about anyone anymore, and we live in some sort of dystopian hellhole where you're out for yourself. And I'm thinking like Back to the Future, where I love that film, but Back to the Future where Biff's in charge and, you know, fires burning out of control and gunshots and everything. Or a civil war where two or more factions go up against each other. I don't want to see that in my country. I love my country. I don't love the direction it's going in right now. But this is where I live. This is where I was born, where I brought up, where I have an affinity for. It's where my children live. I don't want that dystopian future for them. I want a bright and prosperous future. Not only for my kids, but for everyone else here. But this current path that we're on, the future ain't looking too bright. It's not looking too fucking rosy right now. So, key findings: persistent perception of the division over 8 in 10, so 85, believe that British society is divided. This perception has largely remained consistent since 2018, so for the last 7 years, underscoring a long-term concern about national unity and political polarisation as a societal threat. So over half of those surveyed regard the differences in political views as potentially harmful, which has risen slightly since August of last year. So it's gone from 51% to 55% of people. Most still think that the differences in people's political views are so divisive that it's dangerous for society. So which of the following statements come closest to your opinion about the range of political views in Britain? So this was the questions that were asked. So the difference in people's political views are divisive, or there's no difference in people's political views, which had 1%. There are differences in people's views, but it doesn't have a significant impact. That was 20%. There are differences in people's political views, but this is healthy for society, 16%. And the one that views it as a threat is 55%. Now, surely where you'd want to get to is minimum, there's differences, but it doesn't have a significant impact. My answer, and what do I matter? But mine would be, there are differences, but this is healthy. you shouldn't agree with everything that everyone says, and we have some sort of hive mind where we all think the same and do the same and are the same. Bollocks to that. I don't want to live in a world where we are all the same. You should think differently, you should think for yourself. Critical thinking is so important, and it's only through that way you end up having innovation, new technologies and things like that, and solutions for problems. But at the moment, 55% think if you have a different opinion, it's dangerous for society, and that is dangerous. So perceptions of those with opposing views, 52% of Britons think that people with opposing political views don't care about people like them. 65% believe that those with opposing views are unlikely to change their opinion, while 48% believe their views are politically extreme. So it continues as a concern over violence and extremism. When asked about what they're most concerned about, Britons are most likely to say the state of the economy, is the economy stupid, and the state of public services. Around 3 in 4 are concerned about the rise in small boat crossings and the state of democracy. Moreover, fears about different forms of extremism, be it religious, right-wing or left-wing, remain prevalent. Challenges in social cohesion. 79% express apprehension about Britons resorting to violence instead of coming together to peacefully resolve disagreements. There is also notable concern about violence targeting individuals based on ethnicity, immigration status, gender, political beliefs, but also worries about Britons not being able to protest about their legitimate concerns. And that is a huge one, because there has been a concerted effort to clamp down on protests. And I don't care if it's anti-immigration protest or if it's pro-Palestine protests or pro-Israel counter-protests or climate protests, or you think everyone should have Adidas trainers protest. I don't care what it is. We have a right to peacefully assemble. We have a right to protest, make our voices heard. We don't have a right to cause disruption. We don't. But that right to protest is so hugely important. And if we lose that right to protest, we lose all of our rights. Because if we can't protest, they take whatever they want from us. Now, one thing politicians need to understand, and I thought they did, but they work for us. They work for this country. We are their employers. I think they've got a pretty shitty job to do it sometimes. It's hard work. I also think they tend to do a pretty shitty job a lot of the time. Unfair on some of them, I know. But it does feel sometimes that they forget that they work for us. We are the electorate, we are their boss. At least that's how it should be. Civil servants. No one voted for them. I don't want to hear a civil servant's opinion about something. I don't give a fuck. You want to give your opinions? Go start a fucking podcast and get out of the civil service. Do your bloody job that you pay for and shut the fuck up. That's how it should be. Politicians need to listen to the electorate, and when there are protests, there's protests for a reason. And you have to assess whether it's just a couple of fringe people who are so far away from what everyone else thinks that it's not worth paying attention to, but they have the right to protest? Or is this a sign of something bigger and wider? And is that feeling of anger growing? And if so, do something about it, or you will not get anywhere come the next election. Now, talking of protests, there's a story again, a very recent one, which no one should be in favour of. I don't care what side of the fence you apparently are. I mean, to me, left or right wing, that means nothing now. Politics, as well as society, is so fractured that you have people voting for someone that 10 years ago, it would have made them sick to their stomach to think of voting that way. Other people going the other way, and everyone's just looking for something, because at the moment, it's not working. This country is going down the shitter, and it's going there fast. Protests are happening. Now, what should petrify and terrify everyone is the news that David Lammy, Deputy Prime Minister, I believe, wants to ban juries for any crime with, I think it's, if the sentence would be for less than 3 years. So, to read the story, defending trial by jury is crucial in a society where democracy is being eroded. Crucial. David Lammy's proposal to reduce the public's role in criminal cases will further undermine trust in a justice system already under strain. Hear, hear. So this was David Lammy himself tweeting in 2020, criminal trials without juries are a bad idea. That's what he said in 2020. It would seem, and accept it would seem, when you regain power, Lammy, the current Justice Secretary, is set, according to reports last week, to abolish the right to jury trial in most cases, aside from those involving murder, manslaughter and rape. Now, I understand we have a massive backlog. I know. So you hire more judges, you open the courts up and you throw money at it and fix this problem. You do not get rid of trials. And if you think this is a good idea, maybe you're pro this party so much that nothing they can do is bad. Imagine the public anger that there seems to be, public frustration maybe, at this current government. If someone completely opposite ideologically was in charge next time. And now they're in charge of who's hired as judges, perhaps. Maybe it's such a damning victory that they can practically do whatever they want in their first term. And then you have the opposite ideology to the people who are in charge now. Would you want this used against you? That is my question. Even if you like the people in charge, you've got to think logically what could happen. That's how I started this video, to be fair, was talking about, I heard a news story and I am worried where this could lead. That is the logic that I try and address everything with. I used to be an engineer. I'm an engineer by trade, and I have a a logical brain and that I have a thought process where this equals this equals this, or could do, you know. And sometimes using that logic, it can take me down some rabbit holes, you know what I mean? But come on, like, genuinely, what if you're listening to this, what if the worst person you can imagine was to become leader of a political party who was then elected with this power? Would you be happy? Genuine question. I think if you're being honest, we know the answer. That scares the crap out of me, and it should scare the crap out of you. Because who's to say, you know, the argument here is, I'm a law-abiding citizen. What's it matter? We've never heard in this country about innocent people being sent to trials, have we? Never. That jury system that we have is a safeguard. It's not foolproof. It's not a foolproof safeguard. Juries, you can look at what a jury does and say, don't agree with that. But I'd rather 12 men and women, good and true, of all political views and different faiths and different sexualities and different walks of life, different economical backgrounds, and 12 people to hear both sides and make a judgment than a judge. One guy. Who knows what is... Look, they're supposed to be politically neutral. They're human beings. They are human beings. You know, they're not robots. And I'm not suggesting robots, because AI scares the shit out of me too, because I think where could that lead? But that's for another episode. Of course they have political leanings, religious beliefs, moral beliefs, moral values that maybe align different, and it should not be down to one man. And again, it feels like an authoritarian step where not only will they clamp down on protests, but they'll arrest you for it, send you to trial, where a judge sits there and says you are guilty. Whereas a jury, 12 men and women, good and true, would find you innocent. Now, before I get to what I want to finish with, I do just want to pull up this, and it's about trust in government. The title states, public trust in government collapses to record low as demand for electoral reform surges. I think a lot more people are wanting PR now, which is, can't remember what it is, something representation. But people want a change in how it works. The National Centre for Social Research has to date published findings that should give pause to anyone concerned with the health of British democracy. Their latest British Social Attitude Survey, based on responses from over 3,000 UK adults, reveals a political system struggling to maintain public confidence and legitimacy in an era of fragmented voting and declining institutional trust. The data presents a stark picture with just 12% of respondents saying they trust the government to put national interests before party interest, just about always, or most of the time. I would firmly put myself in the other 88%. That's the lowest figure recorded in the survey's history. This represents not merely a dissatisfaction with political policies or politicians, but a fundamental erosion of faith in the democratic process, when 9 out of 10 citizens believe their government prioritizes partisan advantage over national welfare. It's clear we have a crisis of legitimacy that transcends normal political discourse. We don't trust politicians no more. They've given us reason to. So this collapse in trust coincides with electoral outcomes that raise serious questions about democratic representation. Labour's victory last year came with just 33.7% of the population vote, the lowest share ever recorded for majority government in British history. The Conservative Party managed only 23.7%, meaning that together our two traditionally dominant parties secured support of barely half of the electorate. We don't trust them no more. The people do not trust. The citizens of this country are losing faith in the people that we elect to govern us. We are becoming more fractured. This can only end one way, I can see. Maybe two. Maybe some sort of national divorce where Scotland have had enough and they leave, and Wales then push to leave, and parts of England break off from each other. London becomes its own micronation. Or civil war. Excuse me. Bare minimum, some sort of civil conflict, civil strife. We don't want that. Like, I watched the film and I thought Civil War was a fantastic watch. I genuinely did. It's up there for, it's not my favourite film, but I'd say it's top 50 of all time. It was a very entertaining watch. I thought it was very well done. And I thought, I'm glad it's not the idea that could happen in my country. Yeah, that'd be quite far-fetched. Now I'm genuinely concerned. I can see a path that leads us to that. What is the end game? I keep using the word, we are divided. We are the social cohesion is fading away. There's nothing that seems to be holding us together. Maybe a war. I hate war. But maybe politicians are thinking we need a war to galvanize our people. Newsflash, we don't. We have nuclear weapons now. Bollocks to that. Although it does seem that we are, on all sides, eager to try and push for it. We're not being listened to. Citizens are not being listened to. And whilst we are not being listened to, we also have eyes so we can see. We have ears so we can hear. We also have mouths, so we can talk, which means we can be dissident and share our thoughts of protests. Or on channels such as this, we have the internet. The internet definitely has issues, and it definitely doesn't help because we have 24/7 access to the news cycle now, which means it is difficult to get away from it. When there's a big story, it used to be on the 6 o'clock news. Now it's on your phone, whenever you want to see it. And then it's breaking news because they've got to keep it moving, more stuff. But with our access to the internet, we see what these people who are supposed to be running the country, we see what they're doing. Now, before I've pulled up Wikipedia, I'm going to bring it up in a second, just to show over the last few years some of the stuff that politicians got up to in plain sight. And then maybe you can see why we don't trust these guys no more. Now, I'm going to start with the Labour Party because they're in charge now. And if it was another party, I'd be throwing this at their doorstep. But I'm not going to leave it just to them. So this was a 2024 Labour Party freebies controversy. So in September 2024, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer faced controversy after reports he had failed to declare a gift of several £1,000s worth of clothes to his wife, Victoria Starmer, by Labour Party donor Wahid Ali. Subsequent debate arose over a number of gifts accepted by Starmer during his time as leader of the Labour Party, with Reuters reporting he had accepted more gifts than any other MP since 2019, and they were the anti-sleaze party. Too much sleaze in politics, but the adults are back in the room. While they had members of their own party saying that the other lot was scum. So the controversy continued into October 2024, when it was reported that a special escort group of London's Met Police had provided singer-songwriter Taylor Swift a top-level security service for her London Eras tour shows in August following the Vienna terrorism plot. After the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper allegedly pressured them to offer the security after she, Starmer, and several other members of his cabinet received over £20,000 in free tickets for the show by Swift's team. Starmer and his government denied accusations that Cooper played a part in granting the security to Swift or pressuring the police to do so, or that the free tickets were gifted to the politicians in exchange for the security grant, maintaining that it was solely a police matter. The controversy drew criticism from both opposition politicians and politicians from the government Labour Party, with critics accusing Starmer's government of hypocrisy for accepting the gift while pursuing economic austerity and cuts to welfare, with Labour MP Rosie Duffield resigning from the party in protest. Defenders of the government argued there was no wrongdoing, as no legal rules had been broken, and that political donations were normal. Starmer himself dismissed accusations of corruption, stating that all MPs accepted gifts and that he had to accept hospitality to attend shows for security reasons. Do you know what? It might legally have been okay, but it fucking stinks. It fucking stinks. But I have a list of political scandals. Again, Wikipedia. I want to be fair. I want to show that I don't care what side of the fence you're on. If you do something that fucking stinks, I'll call you out. So, the Dominic Cummings scandal. We all remember that. Chief strategist of Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who broke COVID-19 pandemic restrictions during the first national lockdown, and he had to drive to Barnard Castle to make sure his fucking eyes work because there wasn't a Specsavers closer to home. Like, if you're going to come up with an excuse, come up with something better than that bollocks. The Alex Salmond scandal concerned how the Scottish government, led by incumbent First Minister of Scotland Nicola Sturgeon, breached its own guidelines in an investigation into the harassment claims against Sturgeon's predecessor as First Minister, Alex Salmond. Rest in peace. The Scottish government lost a judicial review into their actions and had to pay over $500,000 to Salmond for legal expenses. She was accused of breaking the ministerial code. So 2021, the Greensill scandal, in which former Prime Minister David Cameron approached a number of government ministers on behalf of Greensill Capital to lobby for the company to receive COVID corporate financing facility loans. This piece of shit. The Sun published pictures of that and then the video of leaked CCTV footage from the inside the Department of Health Secretary Matt Hancock. Remove the hand, because he is a cock. And Gina Kaladina kissing in a breach of COVID-19 social distancing guidance. Boris Johnson accepted Matt Hancock's apology and stated that he considers the matter closed. But Hancock resigned as Health Secretary the following day. In November 2021, the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards found that Conservative MP Owen Paterson had broken paid advocacy rules, but instead of approving his suspension, the government enforced a 3-line whip on Conservative MPs to pass a motion that the investigation was clearly flawed. Partygate that got its own fucking Netflix show, didn't it? We all know about that one. We're locked in our house. They're throwing a party. Neil Parish, Conservative MP for Tiverton and Honiton. Not that far from where I am. Sat in the house as a common, watching porn. I actually saw an interview in when the story had broken, but he was not named, saying, "It's disgusting, whoever's done this." the gall of this bloke, that it was him that had done it, and saying, "Well, whoever's done it needs to be an investigation." Chris Pincher by name, Pincher by nature, resigned following allegations about engrossing 2 men. Further allegations of harassment emerged after Pincher, along with claims that Prime Minister Boris Johnson had already been informed of his behaviour. Operation Branch former Police Scotland investigation into political fundraising fraud in the Scottish National Party came to a head in 2023 with the arrest of Scottish National Party Chief Exec Peter Murrell, Party Treasurer Colin Beattie, and former party leader and First Minister of Scotland Nicola Sturgeon. Both Peter Murrell and Colin Beattie resigned. The highly publicised arrests were perceived delays in bringing the investigation, which continued for nearly 2 years, to a conclusion, led both the SNP supporters and its opponents to claim the investigation had been politicised. Michael Matheson iPad scandal. So the Scottish Health Secretary incurred nearly £11,000 in roaming charges. Didn't his lad use it when he was on holiday? I feel for him a bit on that. I mean, stupid, but Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, this is 2024, the leader of the Democratic Unionist Party, was accused of and other sexual offences against 2 victims dating back to 1985. In March 2024, this bloody goes on. This is only the 2000s. The Guardian reported that Frank Hester, the largest ever donor to the Conservative Party, had made comments in a 2019 company meeting about the MP Diane Abbott. The paper reported they said that looking at Abbott makes you want to. I'm not going to read that, so it's cut out of context, but that's disgusting. I mean, Diane Abbott is an idiot, but that is disgusting. Election betting scandal. So prior to Rishi Sunak saying there's going to be an election, Craig Williams, who's a parliamentary private secretary to Rishi Sunak, had placed £100 bet on the election being in July, which was earlier than people thought, but he knew his stuff. Pro gambler. 2025, Tulip Siddiq, City Minister and Economic Secretary to the Treasury, was implicated in corruption investigation into her aunt, the deposed Prime Minister of Bangladesh. In August, the government's Undersecretary of State for Homelessness, Bashanara Ali, resigned after reports she'd evicted tenants from a property. Nathan Gill, a former MEP and regional leader of Reform in Wales, was discovered to have taken bribes from people connected to the Russian government to advance a pro-Russian. I'm knackered after reading all that. The ins and outs of that is, we don't trust politicians anymore. And you bloody well blame us. I am knackered just reading what these clowns get up to. I hope this current crop of politicians pull it together, get their shit together, and make this country better, because that makes me better off and it makes my family better off. More secure, more safe. I can't see it with this current lot. The lot before that, I wish that they'd got it right. But I could never see it because at the moment, I don't know where we're heading. I'm full of cheer this evening, aren't I? On that note, I'm going to wrap it up. But what I will say, just to finish, as downbeat as I am about the state of politics in this country and the state of the country as a whole, we don't want violence. Never. And as useless as a lot of them seem that they are, we need to keep voting, because we lost people who fought for our democracy. And even if it's turn up and spoil the paper because you don't trust none of them. Yeah, I'm finished there. Thank you so much for watching. Genuinely appreciated. If you're new around here, then subscribe, hit notification bell, share, and let's hope I don't get arrested for wrong think or something. Like the damn video. And till next time, I'll see you later.